Hello students, welcome back to my channel, and from this video lecture we are going to start our new topic, and that one is Age of Revolution 1830 to 1848. So let's start. During the period of 1830 to 48, Europe witnessed great tension and unrest. On one side, conservatives were trying to become more powerful, and on the other side, the revolutionaries were attempting hard to bring liberalism and nationalism in Europe. Revolutionaries, who were mainly educated, middle class elites such as professors, school teachers, clerks, and members of commercial middle classes, started revolutionary activities in many regions of Europe, such as the Italian and the German states, the provinces of the Ottoman Empire, Ireland, and Poland. The first such incident took place in France in July 1830. The liberal revolutionaries overthrew the Bourbon kings and at its place a constitutionally monarchy with Louis Philippe as its head was established. The July Revolution led to an uprising in Brussels which resulted in the separation of Belgium from the United Kingdom of the Netherlands, and that one is on October 4, 1830. A major event that served for inculcating the nationalist feelings among the educated elite across Europe was the Greek War of Independence. Greece was under the Ottoman Empire since the 15th century. Ottoman Empire was formed at the end of the 13th century by Oghuz Turkish tribal leader Osman. The independence struggle of Greece began in 1821. The nationalists in Greece were supported by other Greeks who were living in exile. Even the people from West Europe who had sympathy for the Greek culture also came forward for their support. Various artists and writers also supported the Greek struggle against the Muslim empire. The English poet Lord Byron not only organized funds for the Greek struggle but also went to participate in the war where he died of fever in 1824. Finally, a treaty of Constantinople was signed in 1832 that recognized Greece as an independent nation. As we have already read, that various artists and poets had also participated in revolutionary activities for bringing liberalism and nationalism in Europe. But what was their contribution and how is Romanticism connected with it? Let's find out. The romantic imagination and national feeling. The notion of nationalism did not come because of wars and territorial expansion only. Culture also played a significant role in creating awareness about the importance of nationalism. Various artists and poets took help of their poems, stories, and music to express and share nationalist feelings. This cultural movement, carried by the poets, writers, and artists, came to be known as Romanticism. Romantic artists and poets were the criticizer of reason and science. To inculcate a sense of a shared collective heritage and common cultural past, they tried to focus on emotions, intuitions, and mystical feelings. John Gottfried Herder, 1744 to 1803, who was a German philosopher and romantic, favored that the true German culture was to be discovered among the common people. He said that the true spirit of a nation can be popularized through folk songs, folk dance, and folk poetry. So he stressed on the collection of these forms of folk culture as it was essential for nation building. The emphasis on vernacular language and the collection of various folk tales, folk poems, etc., served two purposes at a time. One was recovering an ancient national spirit, and another was to create awareness about nationalism among the illiterate countrymen. This proved to be a suitable in case of Poland. Poland was partitioned at the end of the 18th century by Russia, Prussia, and Austria. Though it did not remain as independent, a territory artists such as Karol Kurpinski were able to national feelings alive in the heart of common people through their artwork. Karol used to celebrate the national struggle through his operas and music. This resulted in the formation of folk dance like Polonaise and Mazurka into nationalist symbols. One such attempt of collecting folk tales was done by the Grimm brothers, who had collected various folk tales by traveling to various places. Grimm brothers, who were active participants in the movement for freedom of press, saw French domination as a threat to German culture. They believed that the folk tales collected by them can serve for the creation of German national identity. Not only poems and stories, they played a crucial role in developing the national sentiments among the people, but language also played a greater part in it. When Russia occupied Poland, it forcefully imposed the Russian language in schools and churches. The Polish language was stopped, so in 1831, an armed rebellion against Russian rule took place, which was, however, crushed by the Russian rule. Following this, many people, for example, the clergy in Poland, began to use the Polish language as their weapon for resistance against the Russians. Polish began to be used for all the church gatherings. This resulted in the imprisonment of a large number of priests and bishops. Some of them were sent to Siberia by the Russian authorities for not using the Russian language to preach. So, the use of the Polish language was seen as a part of the revolutionary struggle against Russian dominance. Though the 1830s is recalled as the year of revolutionary attempts in Europe, it is also recalled for the hardship and the hunger that struck Europe. Let's have a look at this. Hunger, hardship, and popular revolt. Europe had to face severe economic hardships during the 1830s. During the first half of the 19th century, the population gradually increased in Europe. The problem of unemployment became common in Europe. People of the rural areas starting migrating to the cities in search of work, and this also resulted in setting up various slum areas in these cities. Different groups of societies were facing problems. For example, the small businessmen, such as the textile producers, had to bear the brunt of tough market competition because of the cheap goods that were imported from England. This was so because the textile production was carried at homes or small workshops that were not fully mechanized. On the other hand, England was for more advanced in the area of usage of machinery. In those areas where aristocrats were still in the powerful position, peasants had to face the burden of feudal dues. Not only this, the rise of food prices led to a wrong version of the situation. In the year 1848, food shortage and the increasing problem of unemployment resulted in demonstration by the peasants in Paris. It led to the erection of barricades in the cities, and Louis Philippe had to leave the city. A National Assembly announced republic. It granted voting rights to all male above the age of 21 and guaranteed the right to work. For this, national workshops were set up to provide employment to the public. Another uprising was seen in 1845 in Silesia. The weavers of Silesia revolted against the contractors. Contractors were those people who used to provide the weavers with the raw material so that they could turn them into finished product. The payment made to the weavers by these contractors were reduced to a very low amount, and this reduction in payment was a reason for this revolt. So on 4th June, a large crowd of weavers went to the contractor's house with a demand for an increase in their wages, and they were mistreated by the contractors, and this led to the forceful entry of the weavers into the contractor's house, where they destroyed and damaged almost everything. The contractor fled with his family to a nearby village, where he was not only given shelter by anyone. After a gap of 24 hours, he returned back with an army, and in the exchange that followed, 11 weavers were shot. So, till now, we have read about the revolution done by the peasants, weavers, and the poets or artists. But parallel to these groups, some more groups had also initiated a revolution in their own ways. One such revolution was the educated middle class of the European country. As we know that the February Revolution of 1848. So, in France had resulted the removal of monarch and establishment of republic with universal male suffrage. Still, there were many parts in Europe that were not yet declared as independent nation states. They were Germany, Italy, Poland, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and so on. Liberal middle classes comprising of both men and women started demanding a constitution with a national unification. They demanded the nation state based on parliament principles with a constitution, freedom of press, and freedom of association. In the German region, a group of political association that consisted of middle class professionals, businessmen, and rich artisans gathered in the city of Frankfurt and decided to vote for an all German National Assembly. On 18th May 1848, 831 elected representatives gathered at Church of St. Paul to take their places in the Frankfurt Parliament. They had drafted a constitution for the German nation which was to be headed by a monarch as per the parliament. When the deputies offered the crown, which was subject to some terms of Friedrich William IV, King of Prussia, he not only rejected it but also joined other monarchs to oppose the elected assembly. The parliament never paid attention to the demand of peasants, therefore, it never got any support from them. Finally, the assembly was forced to disband with the help of troops. Though everyone was fighting for liberalism and the right to vote, the issue of extending political rights to women was still controversial. Women had participated actively in various revolutionary struggles. They had also formed their political associations, founded newspapers, and had participated in political meetings and demonstrations. But they were not given suffrage right during the election of assembly, even when Frankfurt Parliament convened in the St. Paul Church. The women were only allowed to stand in the visitors' gallery as observers. In 1848, though the conservative forces were able to succeed in suppressing liberal movement, they realized that such revolutions can only be handled by granting some concession to the liberal nationalist revolutionaries. So after 1848, the monarch tried to introduce some measures which were already introduced in Western Europe before 1815. This was the evolution of serfdom and bonded labor in the areas of Habsburg dominance and in Russia. The Habsburg rulers also granted the right of self government to the Hungarian in 1867. While all these political changes were taking place in Europe, some more events took place which led the foundation strong of the making of Germany and Italy. So this is all about today's topic. I will be joining you in next video lecture. Till then, take very good care of yours.